Hey, hey, hey. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. I always love it because I do this, this is the way I open my shows with a little bit of my own music. I don't have to worry about any copyright laws when I'm doing the music because it's coming out of my head, my heart, my soul. And yeah, it's not copyrighted by anybody. So if anybody wants to use that little da 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 da, they're welcome to do that. I will give you my permission. I'm super excited today. This is a special broadcast where it is Mental Health Awareness Week, and I think all month. But this is
Yes.
the week that they're really focusing on it. So we are part of a challenge. I love me now, and no shame in my game. And that challenge is 7 days of selfies using those hashtags just to let people know that there is no shame in your game and you can love yourself now. It doesn't matter where you've come from or where you've been or what you've done. So, in case anybody's never met me before, my name is Cyndilu. I'm the creator and founder of the beBOLDyou Personality Expression System, the author of Becoming Bold You, which talks about that expression system and how it works for you and what you can do with it, and how it can help you as you're transitioning from one part of living into another, because we all go through transitions and we don't always know exactly where we're going. So using assessments I found is super super helpful for to give me language to help me understand who I am, who I've been, and who I want to become. I don't know if you've ever done any of those, Randall, but Randall McKeown, oh, did I say it right?
McEwen.
McKeown, McEwen,
McEwen. Yeah.
McEwen. Randall is our guest today, and he is also a podcaster. So you have 3 podcasts.
I have three that are actually operational right now. I have two other ones that sort of dormant right now. But
Okay.
yes, I have a professional one I do for fun, and the other one I just started, which is for my love of rugby. So that just started maybe 2 months ago, and I'm working on that one, try to build it up.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me and the listeners and those watching a little bit about yourself.
Well, I live in the Greater Toronto area. I was born in Toronto, raised in the east part of the city called Scarborough. And back then they had little boroughs. And then maybe about 25 years ago, decided just to make it one large metropolitan city. So it includes like Etobicoke, North York, East York, Scarborough, and the actual core Toronto. And I never ventured really too far to the west, but then I met my wife, who lived in Mississauga, which is to the west of the city, just by the airport. So it was either you leave the city or you find somebody else. So it was then that I decided that I would venture and move to Mississauga, and it's been my home for about 25 years now. And I love the fact that where I'm located, because it's close. It's close to the, well, not that close to the border, but it's close to the U.S. border. We have Lake Ontario here. We have the attractions in the city when they are open. They have been open for over a year, but such as theater, um, sporting events, and stuff like that's been shut down for a year. But we like the fact that we can live sort of in a burbs, if you want to call it that, but still have access to a big city.
Yeah, those are the places I like to be, just outside the city, far enough outside so that you've got a little bit of space and you're not sitting on top of each other, but close enough so it doesn't take you forever to get to the city.
One thing I was going to say is that the family, the core family, and say like on my mother's side, everybody was born in the city, but once they sort of got to that adult age, they just took their wings and flew away. We've got family out in British Columbia, up in Yellowknife, Northwest Territories, family still in the far east ends of Ontario, and even the East Coast. So I'm the only, well, we're one of the few that stayed in the city area because, again, I can go visit those places. I don't have to move there. This is my home.
That's awesome. So we were going to talk a little bit about kind of your journey and my journey through mental illness and through depression and through what we've experienced. I know I sat 5 years on a couch pretty much with tears and crying and not able to do a whole lot. I'd come home from work, curl up on the couch till it was time to cook supper for the kids. I'd cook supper for the kids. I'd put supper on the table for the kids. I'd make sure they had food in front of them. And then I'd go back and sit on the couch till it was time to put them to bed. I'd put them to bed and then I would go to bed myself. And that was pretty much my routine. I'd go to work and I would do what I needed to do at work. But when I came home, I just curled up. So that was an interesting time in my life. And it sounded like when we were talking and chatting that you might have had some similar kinds of experience with depression.
Yeah, I have over the course of my life. I can sort of go back sort of to the beginning. My parents, they married young, and they shouldn't have married. They didn't get along at all. So I have an older brother who that was the reason why they got married, is because my mom got pregnant, and back then it was just a thing to do. You know, if you're the father, you get married. And growing up, I was witness to a lot of domestic violence, the yelling and screaming, and physical violence. And I always, for some reason, blame myself for it. And as my parents grew apart and then finally divorced, I felt there was a void there. And I struggled in school and I struggled socially, making friends. And the only ones I really connected with is my mother's siblings. They got, well, they're pretty close to my age. So they were there sort of as older brothers and sisters to help guide me a little bit. But because they didn't live with us, it was still that void. So I at that time, at a young age, I made up an imaginary family, imaginary friends. Got to a point where I thought they were real. I thought they were actually real, and I was able to, I guess you want to say, make it through society. I make it through school. I did get in some routes around grades 4 and 5. I had some anger issues. Again, blaming myself for my parents' divorce. The school didn't recognize it really at first until probably the second year, so probably grade 5. And then finally, they got some counseling for me. They thought at that time maybe a big brother, a big sister might be ideal for me to help me through what I was going through. And I basically said I didn't want that. I didn't want to feel like I was um, the problem. So having my brother and my younger sister not having the same thing, me having something different, to me that would be me the problem. And I was very awkward in school. I really didn't get along with kids. I got along a little bit with the adults, like the teachers and such, but never with the students. It wasn't until college that I actually felt like I finally got to a point where I felt accepted with my peers. I got along with them, no problem. We worked together. A lot of the work we had to do was in teams, so it's either sink or swim. So you have to sort of lift your eyes up from looking at your feet, look out in the crowd, see who's there, see what you have to get done. And life was going good. And I thought, if everything's fine. In the 80s, my mom got really sick with cancer. The doctors gave her less than 40% chance of survival. That was very tough
Wow.
and emotional on us. But
How old were you then?
I would have been, just in my early 20s at the time.
Okay.
And she did make it past that. Like the doctor didn't think she would, but she had surgery and she got through that. And again, what happened is that my grandparents got ill. And they lived far away, so my mom quit her job, left the family court because we were adults by then, but we had agreed for financial reasons, living in a big city, they were going to live together and share the expenses until such time as we decided we're going to get married or moved out, whatever. That was a good thing to do. Then like I said, my grandparents got ill. My mom quit her job, which put a financial burden on us because she left and they're 1/3 of the expenses that we had to sort of divvy up between the two of us. And when she was down there, then my grandmother got really sick in the hospital. And shortly after that, well, say about a year after that, she passed away. Um, then my grandfather passed away. And with months of that, my mom passed away. So it was like, it happened so fast, there was no time to grieve. And what I found with that is I had a lot of those anger issues I had as a young child came to the surface again, blaming myself for not spending more time with her, not spending more time with my grandparents. I know the last time I saw my grandfather was on his birthday. He was in the hospital. She was going to have some tests, maybe exploratory surgery the following week. And I thought, it's nothing. You know, he had some circulation issues, but I thought it'd be nothing. But again, it was cancer. So they opened him up, and within the day, he had passed away. So that's tough. You know, like it's tough on anybody, a child, an adult, anybody, but trying to deal with that. And it was back to back. And then, like I said, shortly after that, my grandfather passed in August, and my mom passed in November. So it was within months, and you're trying to deal with all this grief. And of course, at work, the way things go, the economy was crazy here.
Oh, no.
I had a job and I had staff, but what happened is because the economy was going upside down, they let go most of the staff that was under me. Well, actually, all the staff, I should say. So it left me to do other functions plus my job as a manager. I'm dealing with family stress, work stress. I didn't know if I'm
Oh,
going to keep
yeah,
my
no
job or not.
stress there. No stress at all. Here, just do it all. You can do it. You got it. While you're in the middle of grieving everybody that you've lost. Oh my goodness. That is a lot.
It, it's a lot, but I think we all go through that. But if you have a support system there, you can help. It's not easy, but if you have a support system there, it can help you. And that's what I was lacking at the time. It was, I think my boss, well, not my boss, but I guess the boss of all, an area supervisor, he noticed the change in me. And he's, look, you have to get some help. So he sent me to see a psychiatrist, and everything was fine. And we talked openly, and I talk openly to everybody. I don't hide anything. And after about an hour, she said, "Okay, well, I'm going to schedule you back." And it's okay, fine. When I'm going to come back, so she said, maybe next week. I said, okay, fine. So I was going to make the appointment with her assistant. They told me how much it was going to cost, and I said, "Well, is my employer paying for this?" And they go, "Oh no, they pay for your first visit, and then the rest of it's yours." I'm sorry, I can't afford that. So I had to basically learn to heal on my own. It was tough, but then I had a lot of other issues going on. I got to a point where I got in such a depression that I didn't want to live anymore. I didn't think there was any future for me. A couple of times I tried to take my own life, but overdosing and try to overdose. Good thing I didn't overdose. The worst thing is I got very sick and realized, I guess somebody was watching out for me, and they said, "Look, this is your second chance to get things turned around." So I had to learn to take this all in. There's a lot of things going on. One, uh, living on my own at the time, just being reacquainted with my father at the time because I hadn't really had anything to do with him for about, well, since my parents divorced when I was about 10 until I guess that would have been maybe my 30s. And when my mom was in the hospital, the doctor said it was terminal. My dad wanted to go in and make amends. So he went in and they sort of made their peace. And I figured, well, if my mom can make peace with him after all these years and the stuff that she had to go through with him, then I should be man enough to say, look, that was the past. You're a different person. Try to get to know him. So even with my mom passing, I reconnected with my father, who I didn't treat him like a father. I treated him like a friend. And it was him that actually introduced me to my wife that I'm married to now. So he was a matchmaker, and he did a good job at it. But again, he was born with a bad heart, and the doctors kept on telling his mom that he won't live to 5, he won't live to 10, he won't live to be a teenager, he won't live to be in his 20s, well, he'll live to be 16. And we knew that his time was almost up. What he needed was a new heart. And by the time he got a new heart, he rushed to the city. He was lived out of town. He was about 150 miles out of the city. They got into Toronto. They did the heart transplant. But by that time, the organ just quit. So we had a good heart, but nothing else was working. So again, we had to make that decision whether to keep him on life support or pull the plug. And it's like, I have siblings, but they didn't want to make that decision. My
So they left
stepmother,
you.
my stepmother didn't want to let him go, but she says, "I can't do this. I have to let him go. I'm not going to do it unless you guys say it's okay." Well, my brother and my sister didn't want to say. They didn't want to make a decision. It's like, we don't want to be part of it, but she didn't want to make it on her own. So then again, with my mom, I looked after all of the funeral stuff, the arrangements, everything. Here I am with my father doing the same thing. There's other siblings. They're not there. Tough times. And again, here's somebody that I sort of made amends with. Now he's gone. It was very, very difficult, and I don't think my mental health has been any better. I don't think it's been. I've even got to a point where a couple of years ago, I actually decided to get some help. If I knew there was something wrong with me, so I went and got help. Thank God, with the employer, they had a system there where we can speak with a specialist and help me along the way to a point. And then it wasn't going anywhere. So then I had these thoughts again about life should be over. I don't belong. And I went to see my family doctor. Well, he diagnosed me with a thing called SAD. Well, you're just
Mm.
dealing with seasonal or whatever disorder. I knew it was more than that, but he gave me some medication to help me through that a little bit. And I would say that what I've done is said to help me get through this is find out what you want to do, what you're passionate about, find your passion, and do things that you want to do. Some people turn to art or music or uh, just something to keep them going.
Yeah.
And I've always tried to be. I had a full time job, but I've also tried to be an entrepreneur over the last 20 some odd years. Different businesses, trying to make sure that I have not all my eggs in one basket. If something doesn't work out, well, then I have something else to go to. And it wasn't until about 8 years ago that I found my true passion, which was travel. And with that, I was able to help people make their dreams come true.
So
Seeing other
where have
people
you
happy.
traveled to? Wait, where have
Where
you
have I?
traveled to? I wanna hear where you've traveled to.
Well, myself, I've been to. Well, we'll start Canada, United States. I've been through most of the eastern United States, over to Utah. I've been to like the Grand Canyon, Las Vegas. I've been to England, Ireland, and France. I've been down in Mexico, Cuba, Dominican, Jamaica, Antigua, Bahamas. Um, so those are. Oh, Costa Rica. I was down in Costa Rica. So I've had a chance to travel, and that's most of that has been in the last 8 years, 8 or 9 years. And then, of course, COVID hit. So my passengers weren't traveling. There was no extra money coming in. I was fortunate, one, that I had a good job, that they kept us working all the way through. They got us computers so we could work from home. That was an issue. But when you're working, you have that extra money coming in. You look forward to it. Now it's like, where do we cut? What do we spend our money on? Thank God that in some aspects for us in the Greater Toronto area, we've been in lockdown probably longest in North America. The factors you can't go out and dine in restaurants. You can't walk in the store and do shopping like I would say like a specialty clothing store. They have what they call curbside pickup, where you order it online. Hopefully it fits. You pick it up. If not, then you have to return it. Nobody ever expected something like the pandemic to come, but it just came sort of at a bad time for some. For me, I found it was a good time for me because it got me to look at other things. So I started writing. I wrote a book years ago, and it was about my experience in Ireland during 9/11. And we were in Ireland when those attacks happened. So we were away from home, and we were worried about people. Like my stepdaughter, we were worried about her back here in Canada. Um, so I wrote a book about that, just about how we felt during that. But during the pandemic, I figured, okay, well, I should get back to writing. So I wrote a book about how to use Anchor, which is another way of doing podcasts, how to use that to create a free podcast. Then I decided to write another book about my travels. So I wrote a book basically about two of my travels. One was to Cancun, and the other one was my trip to Antigua, which I really enjoyed. That got published. Now I'm on another book, and this one I like the title of it. It's called "Drinking Dingle Dry." And what it is, there's a place in Ireland called Dingle, and they make a good gin. Not that I'm a gin drinker, but I just figured that would be a good title for a book, and it's all about traveling through Ireland. So I'm working on it. So during this pandemic, it's given me that opportunity to find ways to sort of focus on other things than the podcast. My podcast, I've done 50 episodes, met many guests. Like we have many guests on the show, people from all over the world, and hearing about their passion. It's
Tell
also
us
been
what
my
your
passion.
podcast is about.
Say that
So
again.
is this the passports and
Passports and postcards. Yes, that's the one I have so much fun doing. It's you being a podcaster as well. You know, it's a lot of work, but for me, it's fun work. Stuff I look forward to. It's lining up people, learning about them, learning about where they are, what their travel history has been like, and what they see for the future. Because that's the thing we have to look at. When we have this lull, I think the tourism and hospitality industries need to set the groundwork for making things better when we come back to traveling so that they build a confidence in travelers so that the travelers will know wherever they go, these companies have their best interests at heart and not it's just about money, 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 money. Because, if something like this happens again, doesn't matter how much you charge someone if they're not flying anywhere or going anywhere, you can charge us $10. People are going to be kind to those people, make sure you have things in place. So I will get back and travel someday, but I want to make sure that I don't want to send my passengers or my clients anywhere where I don't know for sure they're going to be safe. So that's what I got out of it. I miss it a lot, but here I am talking to you about life throws us curveballs. And sometime you're going to have to realize that that next pitch is going to be another curveball. And if you know it's going to be another curveball, you'll be ready for it. The problem is everybody's going to be looking for the fastball. Take what's given to you and make something out of it. And that's sort of where I've got so far in my life. I've had a lot of heartbreak, a lot of sadness, a lot of sorrow. Um,
so
a lot of
do you think that people are trying to figure out what's coming at them instead of just paying attention to what's coming at them? Do you know what I'm saying? So like you're spending time trying to figure out what might be coming instead of just look at what's happening and react
yeah,
to what's happening.
I think too. I think that I agree exactly with what you're saying there. In the fact that live for the moment, be present, and be
Yeah.
present for the people that you really care about. It's not like just like you can be in the same room with somebody but not show them any attention at all. That's sad. Um, give them that attention. be there for them. I think because of the smartphones that we have now, I know I visit family and stuff, and even my young nephews and stuff, they're on their phone. They're constantly on their phone. It's like, or we'll go visit someone, they'll have the TV on. I'm going like, you invited me to come to your house, and I get you got the TV on. Do you want to see me, or do you want to watch what's on TV? Because I can always come back. It's like if I'm interfering. I think people just need to sort of relax, control what they can, because trying to think what's going to happen tomorrow. Like I know I have things happening tomorrow. I'm a little prepared for it because I know like, tomorrow through work I'm involved in Toastmasters, and I'm the local president. I'm running it. I'm doing a speech, but I'm also helping another speaker with his speech, doing a part in his speech. So I know that's going to happen. I'm not worried about it right now.
Mm-hmm.
I worry about it when it gets here. I still have a lot of issues with anxiety when it comes to even just getting ready for a show. Like, is it going to be a good show? Is the guest okay? Is there anything I can do to make them feel more comfortable? I try to use standard questions when I'm interviewing them, so there's nothing. I'm not going to throw them a curveball. I just want them to be there, will feel relaxed, and want to talk. And I always tell the guests that when I send them questions, it's suggested questions. They can talk about whatever they want. It's a travel show. When I talk about travel, travel could be just to the corner store or around the block.
Yeah.
When they think travel, I don't do any travel. I said, well,
Yeah, you do.
you do every day, even if it's just to the washroom. You travel every day. But and in some of these, everybody has a story, and I want to hear as many stories as I can. It helps me heal a little bit. It helps me become the better person I am. As I said earlier on in this podcast, or whatever we want to call this, a podcast or a vlog or whatever they call these ones with the video. Years ago, I spent more time looking at my feet than looking what was in front of me. And finding my wife, she's helped me become more confident. I've been able to help people that I work with because I joined a union at work, and I work with a lot of individuals that have mental health issues in the workplace. Even though we put on events to highlight mental health, employers do not know how to handle individuals that have issues. They won't even say issues. I hate that word. They might have something that might affect their work, and it needs to be addressed, whether they need more time to complete the work, or they need assistance to complete the work, or they need extra time off, or flexible hours, stuff like that, just to deal with it. And I spent about 15 years working with members, and we have where I was, about 500 members, and I would say, a good 5 to 10% of those people had to come to the union because management didn't understand what they were going through. If you came in with a broken leg, management knows how to help you.
Yeah.
You come in with a knife in your back, they know what to do. But if you come in, you're dealing with anxiety, depression, any of those illnesses, I'll say illnesses. Because again, I don't want to use that word issue. Management didn't know how to deal with it. And rather than deal with it, they make life miserable for that person. And I always say that if there's something wrong, let management know. So here I'm trying to encourage people to reach out, talk to somebody. Within our employer, we have an employee assistance program where an employee can get the help if they're directed that way. Uh, I've worked with a lot of people that had issues with domestic violence, get them into shelters away from their spouses. So it was not just work issues, but it was their life issues. And when I see these people flourishing now, to me, I'm
It's so
saying,
exciting.
I'm out of my depression. I know
Yes.
that I have
So
purpose.
when you're helping someone else, it helps to bring you out of your own depression. It
Oh,
helps us to
yeah,
focus outward instead of looking inward and beating ourselves up, and that we can really take that time and help someone.
I'm not going to say it's gone away forever, but if you develop coping mechanisms, you know what to do when you start feeling these things again.
Yeah.
So I'm glad we have a month for it, but I think it should be celebrated or
All the time.
remembered or talked about for the whole year.
Yeah.
Uh, in some organizations, they just do a little event because they get a tiki box and you to tell their management, okay, yes, we did an event, we talked about it, let's move on to the next thing. So, but
Well,
it's something that does. Go ahead.
most employers have an EAP, Employee Assistance Program, that will allow you to talk. At least the ones I've dealt with, the majority of them seem to have something. And even if they don't, um, your local towns, and there's hotlines, there's all kinds of ways that people can get help. If
Yeah.
you don't have a built-in support system, how I guess we giving some tips would probably be a smart thing for us to do for how they can find other people. I know in our local area, which is in New Zealand, the south of New Zealand, we have a weekly meeting called Mind Matters, and it is a 12-step program for mental wellness rather than for alcoholics. It's for if you're struggling with depression and you realize that you don't have control and you're looking for some help and a support system. We're a group of people that do meet every single week. The doors are open. There's at least one person there every week, no matter if it's Christmas or, you know, Easter, there's still somebody there because there is no, as you were saying, it's like it's nice that we're celebrating this for a month, right? Or we're bringing awareness to it, not really celebrating,
Mm.
bringing awareness to the fact that there are things that are available, and that mental wellness is a real problem for some people. You know, some people struggle with keeping their mental stability in a well place. So there are places that you can get help.
Yes.
What do you
We
have
have
in
that
your
here.
life?
We
Yeah.
have a lot of different places here, whenever well, prior to pandemic, whenever there was community events, I would attend those because that's where you get most information about where you can direct people to. So you can get contact names, phone numbers, know where they are. So when you're helping somebody out, you know where to direct them and you know probably the best sources. Now, one thing I find difficult here, especially in this city, is we're a very diverse community, and for someone to show in some cultures to show vulnerability, that is that was worse than committing a crime. It's you had the right education, you had parents who taught you well why you have a beautiful marriage, you have kids, why are you depressed or why do you have anxiety? What do you like? Life is good for you. These are things we have to sort of deal with a little bit. We have to have a little bit more understanding. And I think as more and more generations of new cultures have been in the country, they're sort of understanding a little bit more. I've seen earlier on, like even if I went back just 10, 15 years ago, that a lot of these people, they didn't, they couldn't tell their partners, they couldn't tell their family that they were all part of this. So we had to try to help them and find the right places to connect them to. And sometimes it was very difficult because I'll tell you, sorry, I'll tell you one thing is when you think someone might be on the edge and they're looking for that bridge, you have to get them immediate attention,
Mm, yes.
no matter
Yeah.
how hard they fight. And if you can't do it, like a lot of times I've been in a situation where I can't do it.
Yeah.
So at least we have authorities such as the police, or they can get a hold of professionals that can help someone. And they'll do a mental health check at them at their home to make sure they're okay. Because if you use those words about harming myself or harming somebody else, we have to act, and we can't just ignore it. And unfortunately, in some cases here, people ignore it because they think, look at you, there's nothing wrong with you. You got everything. You got a house, you got a car, you got a great job, you and your spouse get along great, kids are good. But some of
Yeah.
these things are deep inside us, and they don't come to the surface, so you don't see them.
Yeah, there's times that things are happening and people actually don't know why they're upset. They don't know why the emotions are rising up, and you do have to kind of go and unpack it with somebody. And that's why groups like Mind Matters or meeting with a counselor is such a good thing to do, or even a close friend and talking with somebody, because you have to get it out in order to know what you're even thinking sometimes.
Well, I think I want people to be more um, aware of the fact that there is help.
Yeah.
Uh, Too many people we lose through suicide, and there is help there. But I think I'll be honest with you, governments. I don't know about where you are, but I know the Canadian government. They've always been cutting back on healthcare. And we can see an example right now with what's going on with the pandemic is, our hospitals are overwhelmed because there's been so many cutbacks over the last 15, 20 years. And I'd rather see them spend money on healthcare than fighting wars. And that's just my opinion is bring our soldiers home, spend less money on the military, more money on keeping your people healthy and providing them opportunities here because sometimes that's what it is. It's culture
Yeah.
shock. You move to a new country from somewhere around the world. Yes, it's a new opportunity and it might be a good place to be, but it takes some time to adjust. And if you're torn away from your family, if you come far away, that can cause a lot of things too. So there's a lot of issues there. I just know that I'm fortunate enough that people along the way have recognized the fact that I had or something off and I needed to talk to somebody. And I was to the point where I thought, my life doesn't matter. But now I look back and I see all the good I've done, all that I've accomplished, and develop coping mechanisms so that when I do feel those things, I can get through them. I can move forward. And here I am today. We're talking. So it's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh. And 38 minutes have already gone by. Oh my gosh. It always goes so quick. I'm always amazed when we start learning about each other's stories and sharing our life and our stories. The time goes so quickly. Um, what what would be kind of your last, or we'll wrap it up here a little bit. So, what would be a tip that you would give somebody who's struggling right now, or somebody who let's talk about the person who's struggling and doesn't want to admit it because they're feeling like the stigma of mental illness put on them is going to hold them back from being able to pursue their dreams or keep their job or anything along those lines.
I don't know if it'd be a tip, but just my advice. My advice is, well, look at me. I'm a man. Men are supposed to be strong. That's the way I was taught growing up, and having a grandfather on my mom's side who was like, he was like just giant of a man and never had anything. No, nothing could hurt him that I knew of. Probably things that did that he never talked about. But never, what I would say is never be afraid to talk to somebody. There's always somebody to talk to, whether you belong to a church or you belong to a community group, um, even your own family. Sometimes it might be, outside your immediate home or a friend.
Yeah.
If not, there's always helplines. So if it gets to that point, reach out. It's no shame.
Yeah.
This thing we have up here is so complex and the decisions and everything that we have to go through on a day-to-day basis can confuse the heck out of anybody.
Yeah.
And sometimes, again, we talked just a bit ago about those emotions coming forward. We go, where's that coming from? I'll be honest with you. I cry at commercials. Why? Because either they're happy or they're sad. And it's my way of releasing, that I cry a little bit and my wife's there handing me Kleenex. Are you done yet? Give me a moment. Be okay. Because it's just a commercial. And I hope it is my way of sort of releasing all this tension that's been built up.
Yeah.
And if I find things a little bit out of my control, I reach out. Have to.
Yeah.
You just can't do it on your own.
Yeah.
There's no
Yeah.
shame in it. There's no shame in telling someone, I'm just not myself today.
Yeah. Yep. I am so grateful for the people that were in my life that allowed me to have space to simply be. And so that is what my advice is going to be, is if you are struggling, find somebody you can simply be with. And if you're not struggling, be somebody that someone else can simply be with, because that is going to actually, it is amazing. I mean, sometimes it is a matter of going over and you've got the TV on, but you're just sitting with them to be with them, right? Connection is probably the biggest cause of depression, is disconnection, not being connected, not feeling like you're needed, wanted, feeling all alone. So connection and being with people and spending time and holding space, as they'll say, a lot of people hear them say holding space. Well, what exactly is that? That is simply being with someone and being in their presence and accepting that they're with you and embracing their spirit by your spirit.
Always say,
So
either
thank you
listen.
so much. Go ahead.
I was going to say,
Listen.
just listen. You don't have to offer advice. Just
Yeah.
listen.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. And yeah, and they don't always need to be fixed. They just want to express everything that's in them. And when you express it, now you're looking at it from out here. We were talking in on Clubhouse this morning in my all things personality, all things personal development. Sorry, it's personal development day. I hold two calls, or two, yeah, I guess they're calls, 2 shows a week, whatever we're calling them in there, 2 rooms a week, one all
Yeah.
things personality, one things all things personal development. And we were talking about today how perspective is the main thing, right? Is that the frame can't see the picture. The frame has to get outside of the picture in order to actually look back on it. So it has to really kind of walk away from the picture in order to see what's inside of it. So others need to tell you what they're seeing. Sometimes we need to open ourselves up and allow what others are saying to us to help us to realize what position we're in. Because we sometimes will go to a level of depression that we didn't actually need to go to if we listened to the people in our lives who were saying to us, "Are you okay?" And we're just sucking it up and saying, "I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine," when really they're seeing something that you can't see because you're here looking out. So
Yep.
let others speak into your lives. You be the one that speaks into other people's lives, and it's okay to ask, "Are you okay?" And to say, "Look, if you're not okay, I'm here for you," and just be there for someone without having to fix them. So, all right. Thank you, those who have been here through watching. I know Cassandra's been here. I think Kim stopped in for a few minutes. I'm not sure who else. The comments were mostly Cassie, but I know there's been more people here. So thank you for watching live. For those who are watching this on the replay, thank you so much. And if we can be of any service to you or help to you, point you in a direction to find some help, just send us a message and we will do that. We will connect you with the people in your local area. Many blessings and peace to you. Remember to always live your life out loud and be bold you. Thank you, Randall.